country as we kick off our coffee with a candidate town hall.
And let's not wait another moment. Let's welcome our special guest, Senator Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi as our live. A lot of voters to say hello to this morning.
How you doing? Great to see you.
It's important. We've got a lot of voters here in New York. You know, you can't let one go by. We're going to talk to Mrs. Cruz in just a moment. We're coming up here, Senator.
Thank you. Good morning.
Nice morning.
Great to see you again.
Very good to see you.
And as you said, George, we will get to Heidi Cruz in just a moment. You got to work. It's like working a rope line getting up here.
That's a good problem to have.
It is. Congratulations. Another good weekend, picking up all 14 available delegates in Wyoming. Yet
Thank you.
Trump still is saying, Donald Trump continues to say that the system is rigged. And here's what he said again just on Sunday.
It's a rigged system. It's a crooked system. It's 100% crooked. It's a corrupt and crooked system.
Senator Cruz, how do you respond to what he's saying?
Well, listen, Donald is not a complicated man to understand. He doesn't handle losing well. There have been a total of 5 states that voted in the last 3 weeks. In those 5 states, starting from Utah, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Colorado, and Wyoming, 1.3 million people voted in those 5 states. And he lost all 5. We have won 5 in a row. And Donald's upset, so he's throwing a fit.
He's set up for a pretty big win here in New York. And even if you do very well in May and June, he's most likely to go into the convention with the most votes, the most states won, and the most delegates. And most Republican voters think that person should be the nominee. What do you say to them?
Well, if Donald is the nominee, Hillary Clinton wins. And she wins by double digits. And I don't believe Donald is going to be the nominee. As I said, 5 states in a row, we've won landslides over and over and over again. The stakes are too high for us to hand the election to Hillary Clinton, which is what nominating Donald Trump does.
But you can't overtake him before June.
In all likelihood, we're going to go into a contested convention, which means nobody has a majority. And I'll have a ton of delegates. And it's going to be a battle in Cleveland to see who can get to a majority. You can't get the nomination without earning a majority of the delegates elected by the people. And I believe Donald's highest total will be on that first ballot, and he will go steadily down because Donald cannot win, and we don't want to nominate someone who's a loser in November.
We're talking about those all-important delegates. We actually have one. We talked to about down in Louisiana. His name is Luke Letlow. He's an unbound delegate from Louisiana. Here's his question.
Senator Cruz, some people suggest that you've developed a reputation in the Senate for being an obstructionist and are often unable to work with your colleagues on both sides of the aisle. But our future president of the United States will clearly need to build coalitions of support in order to succeed. What are your plans to mend fences, work with Congress, and give the people like those of us here in Start Louisiana the open, honest, effective government we deserve?
Well, listen, I think it is a terrific question. Everyone understands right now that Washington is broken. People are frustrated with career politicians in both parties because they're not listening to us. They're not doing what they said they would do. Both Democrats and Republicans, they make promises and they lie, and then they go to Washington, they don't do it. And I will plead guilty to having stood up to the career politicians in Washington, stood up both to Democrats and leaders of my own party, because what's happening in Washington is broken. Now, fast forward after we win. Once we win, I believe that I'm going to have a very productive and positive relationship with Congress. Why? Because when you've got a strong conservative president driving an agenda, Congress will work hand in hand, just like Ronald Reagan did. Remember, Reagan in '76 primaried Gerald Ford for much the same reason, because he believed Republicans weren't standing for anything. And what changed when Reagan came in and won in 1980 was he won with the support of the people. The Reagan Revolution was a grassroots movement. The reason why we are winning state after state after state is an army of the grassroots rising up, and that's really our strength, and it's unifying the party.
And it's up to the voters, and I know you want to hear from the voters that we have here, so let's get to Amy.
All right, yes, and I'm here with James Thompson. He is from Staten Island and is still undecided at this moment. So, James, what's your question for Senator Cruz?
Senator, in January, you famously criticized New York values. Many of us are frustrated with the policies that you specified. We were lumped into your criticism as New Yorkers. Having spent the past few days here, if you could rephrase your statement, would you do it over again?
Well, James, thank you for being here, and it is wonderful to be back in New York. You know, the phrase New York values actually didn't come from me. It came from Donald Trump. It was an interview he gave a number of years ago to Meet the Press, where he was explaining his longtime support for partial birth abortion. And his explanation was, hey, I'm from New York. Those are New York values. They're not Iowa values. And so I was repeating Donald's own phrasing. Now let me be clear, as I've said many times. The people of New York, the folks here, y'all have suffered under the left-wing Democratic policies year after year after year that are foisted on you by politicians who aren't listening to you. And Heidi and I, we're fighting for you. We're fighting for the people of New York who are fed up why Governor Cuomo thinks that New Yorkers don't want jobs and won't allow fracking to develop the natural resources. Pennsylvanians get jobs. But Cuomo thinks that y'all don't want jobs. I know the men and women here, y'all are frustrated when Mayor Bill de Blasio, in his first weeks in office, goes up to Harlem and tries to shut down charter schools because he says young African-American and Hispanic kids don't get to go to school because he's so in hoc to the teachers' unions. And I'll tell you, there was a moment that illustrated the left-wing Democratic values perhaps better than any other. And it was when the brave men and women of the NYPD stood up and turned their back on Bill de Blasio. Millions of us cheered along with those heroes who risk their lives every day because we're tired of politicians, whether it's de Blasio or Obama or Hillary Clinton, who over and over and over again side with the criminals and the looters rather than the people who are risking their lives to keep us safe.
Senator, you know that phrase has hurt you here in New York, right?
Well, I do know that it has hurt me with the media, which is the media lit their hair on fire. But I will say, if there ever comes a day when I'm winning the poll among the media, I will have done something profoundly wrong, and I'm not holding my breath.
Okay, let's get another question.